Welcome to today's Partner Academy Live on-demand webcast. This session is titled Visual Studio 2010 for Testers, Reseller Training. I'd like to turn the floor over to your presenter, Michael Deroche, Tiempo Vice President and Director of Tiempo Testing Lab. Michael, you have the floor.
Thank you, Heather. Good day, everybody. I'm glad to welcome you to this first session of training for Visual Studio on 2010, specifically directed for the tester marketplace. The software testing marketplace is unlike the developer marketplace, which we're very familiar with if we're in the field. There are different audiences, and there's often confusion regarding the various constituents that we need to understand to go after the test business. And in order to accomplish a successful infusion into that market, we need to understand the stakeholders and be able to have very meaningful conversations with them. And to do that, we provided, now we're going to have three sessions to train you in the various components for the software testing market. This first session, we're going to look at the marketplace in general and understand where the marketplace is, the growth that is taking place in the market, what place software testing has in the overall software development, and then bring to you the exciting developments with the Visual Studio 2010 release of the Test Professional. There's components in that piece of software that specifically address the testing market in very disruptive and unique ways, and so we'll be getting into that in the first session. The second session will follow with a bit more of a technical bent. The first session is designed to give a broader overview, and the second session and third session will more in-depth in looking at the various things that need to be understood in order to enter this market successfully. Specifically, in the second session, we'll look at some of the software testing terminology, some of the basic ideas and the broader concepts that need to be understood in the software testing marketplace. It's very dissimilar to the developer marketplace, and so you get to know your audience. We'll look at what makes up a tester and what makes up the various test taxonomy for the so you understand who the generalist testers are, the management, and what their different needs and pain points are. The third session will conclude with more of a sales-focused scenarios. We'll look at the marketplace and the various competitors in the marketplace and the tools that are in the marketplace. There are a number of large deployments of tools that you'll need to be familiarize yourself with, and how the Visual Studio 2000 tool compares and matches up, and what are some of the best strategies for getting into that marketplace. So those are the three sessions, and let's just get into today's session. Before I do, I'll give a bit more of a brief bio on myself. I've been in the software testing world for about 20 years. Started out as a tester, and as the marketplace developed, then developed with it, moved into test automation, test load performance, and then into sales and marketing and management. Became a director of several test labs for some very large organizations. Entrepreneurially, then went on my own and started a software testing company that successfully did a lot of testing for companies through Y2K, through the early 2000s, and then now currently with Tiempo Development, the nearshore software company that provides software testing services out of our lab and also development activities. So that's a bit about me, and let's just jump right back into the presentation. The session introduces you to the world of software testing, the new software testing features in Visual Studio 2010. We're going to overview the software industry in this session, and then why the Visual Studio 2010 software is such a great fit for today's marketplace. So we'll introduce the software testing market, the challenge for software quality, why software testing is even important, and introducing Visual Studio 2010. One of the things that is striking to me is that for a lot of folks, the concept of software testing is considered to be a pretty new practice, even though it's been going on for some time. It has flown under the radar, and it's greatly overshadowed by its bigger brothers in the developer world. The testers sometimes have been considered a second-class citizen, and their needs and the tools that they would have to accomplish their tasks have been not as a higher priority, and that is changing. And the reason that is changing is really the demand in the marketplace. The market for software testing is exploding. The global software testing market is estimated to be at $17 billion. This is just for the software tools. And the reason for this expansion is that these days the drive for quality in software is getting more fierce and more urgent and more important. And so to have a quality piece of software, all the things that go into creating quality software are becoming job number one, and that is driving the whole testing, software testing marketplace. It's estimated that worldwide in 2013 that there'll be $56 billion industry for just software testing services. Now that doesn't include the tools. Tools are above that number. The sales growth is expected to be 20%. So you can see that this is a very large and untapped opportunity for the selling of software tools. That's what makes this offering of Visual Studio 2010 Test Professional and in the other versions, in the Ultimate and Premium, very, very compelling. There's a great story to tell, and there's a great opportunity for the software tester promoting the software testing sales. Software testing itself consumes over 20% of an IT's budget, and it could take up 40% of the effort. And that's one of that statistic is often very surprising to folks. They think that a software being developed is primarily just done by a developer, and then once they write the code, that it goes right into production. But there's so many other things that occur, and one of the primary activities that occurs is the software testing. And these days, the software tester is at least a 30% activity. Often it's more than that. But of all the practices that go into the software engineering, the role of the tester is becoming integral, and even more so as software gets more complex. And so providing a tool for those testers is a very great need in the software industry. Now, getting back to what is driving this, and that is the demand for quality. And I realize this may seem an obvious thing, but it is the main driver component to being able to drive sales for Software Test Professional, because the whole point of the software is to increase the ability and the ease in which software, quality software is developed and being able to be tested. So given that that is true, it's important to understand as we approach the market that the demand for quality is the job number one, is the top and foremost in the thinking of most companies. Successful companies, according to Ogum, know that software testing is the means for software quality, and it's an indispensable part of the activity. Now, software testing hasn't always been as evolved as it is today. There's been a number of iterations that, oh, excuse me a moment, I need to jump back up, that software has gone through in its history. At first, it was just debugging. There was code written. It was typically COBOL code, and it was just written, and the debugging was done by the developer. And as time goes on, the code became more complex, and there's more people involved, and it was deployed in different environments and different ways in order to thoroughly test the software. A code change in one area of the software could have effects in other areas that wouldn't have been noticed. And so therefore tools